Did they make
No,
contact?
I don't know. It's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Right
Look at
there,
this.
moves
Wow.
him to win it. Carl Edwards bump and dump and run.
Here comes Gordon right up to the bumper again. The bump and run.
There it is.
And Maine to really turn around, Maine to Reilly's cage up.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Eric Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had yourselves a Tyler Reddick type of weekend. He was the big winner down in Texas. And boys, was it a long one. But first, make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Podcast available every Monday night. Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, iTunes Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And YouTube, 6 a.m. on Tuesdays. You can watch our faces. And fellas, how's your weekend? How do you enjoy the weekend besides the race?
I had a great weekend. Yeah, I had a great weekend. Weather was good. I missed Matt. I was down at the Bloomsburg Fair is going on. It just started this weekend. So Saturday, 66, sunny, blue skies. Perfect day to go down and stuff your face with plenty of good food. I had a couple Birch beers, the beef jerky stand I hit up, some stuffed pretzels. I mean, you name it, that place has it. And it was a good overall day down at the fair on Saturday. Didn't get to catch any racing besides Sunday. Because we were doing a little run around Friday and then Saturday at the fair. But overall, it was a good weekend.
Yeah, I went down to the old stomping grounds down there and went to the Bloomsburg Fair, did the same thing, ate way too much. We got down there early because we have Notre Dame kickoff at 3:30. So wanted to make sure we got home for that. And then we were able to, once we got home, went over to my dad's house, got to watch the game with him, which is always nice. You know, it's much appreciated. He got to spend some time with his grandson. So it was a nice family Saturday, and Notre Dame got a win. So it was a good weekend.
Oh yeah, sounds like a good weekend. I feel like everyone was down at the Bloomsburg Fair this weekend. I didn't get a chance to go down. It was my girlfriend's birthday weekend. She celebrated.
Hey, happy birthday, Bree!
Yeah,
happy birthday, Bree!
Big old 33. Shout out Larry Bird. I made a
Mark Reilly's gonna. Speaking of Mark Reilly, he's gonna appreciate that one.
I made a Larry Bird joke in her card to her. I didn't know if she would understand. But I'm like, you and Larry Bird, 33, greatest power forward in Celtics history, right?
If you ask my dad, greatest power forward in NBA history.
Well, I mean, he is the king. I tell you what, not to go off tangent, but I love hearing Larry Bird's stories about him just shit talking guys, like just chirping on the court, like some of the greatest chirps I've ever heard. Like I'm all about hockey because of the chirps, and Larry Bird was a king in the NBA. Like he could take anyone out.
There's three sacred names in the Reilly household when I was growing up. It was Larry Bird, Jimmy Buffett, and Dale Earnhardt.
Oh yeah, that is the holy trinity right there in the Reilly household, and I'm here for it. But fellas, are you here for NASCAR news?
The Bump and Run NASCAR news.
Wow, look at that.
We are
official.
New imaging.
We are upping our production value, and I worked on some new imaging this week so I hope you guys enjoy that one. But let's jump into the NASCAR news. Only a couple of stories to talk about. McLaren Racing already showing interest in Kyle Busch to run the Indy 500. Now that he's with a Chevy team next year. What do you guys think about Kyle Busch running the 500?
Well, I do have to give a shout out here. When Kyle Busch had his announcement day and, did his whole interview and, all the questions, and someone did ask him if someone was willing to sign him to do the double, like, would he do it? And he's like, oh, of course I would.
Yeah.
And right then and there, I stopped at my buddy Jay's shop, and I got to give credit. Our buddy Puff, he was there, and he's an F1 fan and a NASCAR fan. And he called it that day when I was in there. He goes, I guarantee you that McLaren is the first one to come calling and saying, hey, I'll put you in this ride. So, Puff, if you're listening to this, You're right, dude. They were the first one to come calling, and
was there any reason for McLaren? Like, are they known to do stuff like that? Or
I think he fits their like persona, like McLaren. Okay. Like, oh, they would love to just like showboat Kyle Busch around and throw money at him. Like, he fits their style of race team, I guess. Like, it's like he is the what they go for, you know. So shout out to him for calling that, which was impressive. And you know, I think a lot of drivers would love to do the double and you know, at least give it a shot. His brother, you know, did it, so I'm sure that's kind of bugging him as well.
Is it?
And I think he just wants to give it a fair shot too, to kind of maybe beat his brother a little bit.
Is it only him and Tony the one to do it? There's got to be others, right?
Him and Tony are the only recent ones that I know.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure.
I'll tell you what I wouldn't be surprised about. I know this is another piece of the news, but with Jimmie Johnson officially retiring from full-time Indy Cup.
Wow, breaking news. I didn't get to that story yet. But
I just jump the gun?
Jumping ahead in the NASCAR news, Jimmie Johnson says he's retiring from full-time racing in IndyCar. Not sure what he's going to do there, but Matt, go ahead. Before that, though. I just want to give a shout out to Puff's F1 podcast. He does an F1 podcast called On the Softs. Check them out on Twitter, On the Softs F1. If you're an F1 as well as NASCAR fan, you could listen to both.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmie Johnson were to try the double. Maybe him and Kyle can fly together.
Ooh, that would be amazing. I guarantee someone will find a car for Jimmie Johnson to race in NASCAR again. Yeah. I mean, how many Hendrick affiliates are there? You know, I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, they would get him a ride, no problem. People would drop everything to give Jimmie Johnson a ride.
Maybe that could be the hook for RCR. They have two guys racing the Indy 500 and two guys racing the Coke 600 in the same day, and maybe run a third car. I think it'd be interesting.
I think he could do well, though. Like, if we're going to talk about what are the expectations for him, if he does run it, I don't see why he can't run well, especially if it's something that he's been wanting to do. It seems to me like he would take it super serious and really, if he signs the deal, I think he would give it his all and prep as much as he could for it. And that's always a good thing too. I hate when people just try NASCAR and they don't really go all out for it. It's like, oh, I'm going to run this road course and just whatever happens. Like,
they don't give the proper like prep time to figure out.
Yeah. So I think Kyle would actually, give it all of the required, practice and stuff going into that race. And it will be interesting to see him try to give it a shot. Tony? Did Tony win the 500?
No, I think he finished like second or third.
And then Kurt was sixth, I think, right?
I can take a look if we continue
going.
I
think Kurt was sixth. So, like, hey, a top 10, I would say Kyle Busch has a good shot at a top 10.
I don't think Tony Stewart ever won the Indy 500, did he? He's won an Indy championship, but I don't think he ever won the 500.
Right. I know about the championship, but it's just like the 500s. That's something I think would jump out at us if he did, right?
Yeah, I don't think he ever did. I don't know. I wasn't really, a fan and paying attention back then. So like you guys talking about the doubles, like who ran the doubles? I'm like, I don't even know. I know Kurt Busch did. That's about it. I didn't even realize Tony ran the double 1 year.
So too. So not to get in the weeds here, but here we are. The feat was first attempted by John Andretti on May 29th, 1994. This is according to Wikipedia.
Okay.
In 2001, Tony Stewart became the first and only driver to date to successfully complete all 1,100 miles of both races in the same day.
That's
so I'm
outrageous.
assuming John Andretti and Kurt Busch were the ones.
They didn't finish the race.
Got knocked out. Okay, so 4 drivers: John Andretti, Robbie Gordon, Tony Stewart and Kurt Busch have attempted it.
All right.
And then let's see here. Tony Stewart's efforts stand as the best combined results, finishing 6th at Indy and 3rd at Charlotte. Okay. I knew he finished like 2nd or 3rd in one of the races.
And that's your NASCAR history segment for the day.
Yeah.
Back to NASCAR news, though. Two more pieces of news. I'm sure we'll talk about the Cody Ware crash coming up when we talk about the race, but he was involved in a pretty wicked crash yesterday. As far as we know, he has no concussion, no real injury, just a lot of soreness and stuff, and they're going to be rechecking him throughout the week.
I think his
too.
foot was an issue, wasn't it? His foot.
Yeah,
ankle. I think it was his ankle. He's
Yeah.
a taller driver, I think, too. So that always has an effect when you're in the car. Like same thing with Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch is a fairly taller driver amongst the NASCAR garage, and being tall, man, when you get in those crashes, that's you pay a price sometimes. Yeah,
it's already cramped in that cockpit, and seeing that vicious hit, like you saw how far those tires were pushed into the firewall there. I'm sure there was some movement inside that cockpit, but NASCAR R&D Center is taking that car back. They're going to do some investigating and whatnot. And hopefully we can figure out this safety issue. We talked a lot about the safety of these cars in the off season and throughout testing last year. And we were all pretty much on the same page, like, oh, NASCAR will figure it out. Don't worry about it. NASCAR will figure it out. And it's just one of those deals with the new car, things start cropping up that you never really thought about before, and I feel like we're seeing a whole lot of that, especially now in the season. So hopefully for next year, we could get this stuff figured out, because you can't have vicious wrecks like we're having and the types of injuries. I mean, Kurt Busch is still out with a concussion protocol, and it's been over 2 months now, so just scary stuff. Something that happened last week, Ryan Blaney lost his wheel. They originally were going to appeal the penalty to keep his crew chief, Jonathan Hassler, on the pit box. He was on the pit box yesterday. They decided to withdraw their appeal today, so they will not appeal the penalty, and he will be suspended for the next 4 races. Kind of crunch time when it comes to the playoffs, but it is what it is, I guess. And that's all I have for NASCAR news, unless you guys saw anything on the Twitter since I sent the outline.
No, my Twitter feed was full of one specific thing after the race on Sunday, so I didn't see much news.
Jacksonville Jaguars beating the
Chargers, baby, 38-10. Let's go, Duval.
I would have won some money thanks to them. Unfortunately, the Patriots lost, and it screwed up my 10-leg parlay that I had going, that I hit 9 legs on. But
at the end of the show, Puff, doesn't he do a gambling podcast as well?
He does, and I forget what it's called, and I went to his Twitter page and I couldn't find it again.
I was going to say, we're plugging podcasts. Why not?
I know. I was trying to. I saw he put his F1 podcast in his Twitter bio now, so maybe he's off the daily betting podcast or what. Not sure what's going on with that one, but I figure we'll give a little shout out. But let's jump into the race weekend, and there's really only so much to talk about, and I have about a 1.5 minute summary for you guys.
This sweltering hot all day.
Car just steps around on him. There's a bump right over the tunnel there, Jeff.
Still waiting for the tire pressure to build up.
We're going to see that time and time again.
The 18 of Kyle Busch is into the wall.
Pretty sideways right there. Really, really hard impact into the wall with the left rear.
Oh, and sliding across the grass. The 47 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
God
brings
damn
the
it,
caution
Ricky.
out. And the 20 slow on the track.
Yeah, flat right rear tire on the 20. 41 now is also around. Oh, the 48 car's crashing into the wall. There had to have been a tire issue.
Just mentioned a flat tire in the right rear down for Christopher Bell. And
my goodness.
Fire right there on the 21. And so more
I
issues
forgot
this
about
time.
the
It's
fire.
Cody Ware in the 51. Look out on pit road. Oh, and into the wall, the 9 of Chase Elliott.
He came over the radio talking about a right rear tire issue. 17 cars around.
But it's raining pretty hard around this racetrack. You see a rainbow on. They're going to bring the
halfway
cars
through.
onto pit road. They think that right now it's safer to have them on pit road.
Looks like another right rear tire goes down. You see the smoke out the back of the car. Hard contact with the right rear. Comes back around, swings into the right front.
Harvick's going to slide up, and he has the lead in Texas.
You got to be watching on
Into the
YouTube
wall,
to
the
see our
four
reactions
blown
on this one.
Hold it. Race leader Martin Truex Jr. has just wrecked. He got into the wall. A right side tire went down. Hendrick goes around, coming off at 2. A rewind behind him.
We got a car spinning in turn 2.
Up against the wall, Eric Almirola. Caution comes out, the 16th caution of the night. 1 lap to go, presented by
16
Credit One
cautions.
Bank. Until he gets all the way out of turn 4, nothing is guaranteed. They're 3 and 4 for the final time and looking for career win number 3. It's going to come at Texas. Tyler Reddick wins in the Lone Star State.
I didn't pick up that Rick Allen right there at the end, even in the last turn of the race, was saying, hey, nothing's guaranteed.
Even with a second and a half lead.
That was a freaking disaster yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
All right, so who do you guys have for Talladega?
Oh, man.
yeah. Because that's all we need to talk about with that race.
All right, and now to the gambling segment. No, we'll get to that later on. Don't forget the gambling segment at the end of the show where we give you our picks. But yeah, to summarize the race weekend, Noah Gragson sweeping the month of September, winning once again in Texas. And then, of course, Tyler Reddick led 3 times for 70 laps in Texas. The race lasted on track 4 hours, 21 minutes, and 53 seconds, including the rain delay. I feel like it was 7 hours.
It was damn near pretty close.
Yeah, we saw 16 cautions for 91 laps. 36.
I had relationships last shorter than that race did yesterday.
Oh yeah. We had 36 lead changes among 19 different drivers, and I didn't realize 18 drivers had tires blow. Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, Justin Haley, a new entry into the top 5 on a non-plate track. Ryan Blaney and Chase Briscoe, your top 5. So gotta say, big congratulations to Justin Haley, just running a nice, clean race and being there, you know, for the rookie. But yeah, that's how it sounded all day long Saturday. And like, again, I don't know about you guys, but you know, these 3:30 starts that are actually 3:50 starts when the green flag drops, like 4 o'clock for a 500-mile race. I don't know how you guys felt about that, but I was very sour about it.
The worst part about that is if you're an NFL fan, you know about the witching hour on the Red Zone channel, where like from
I don't know what the witching hour is.
4:15, from like 3:30 to like 4:15, 4:30, like that 1 hour window. That's when like the 1 o'clock games are starting to wind down, and you usually have 4 or 5 games that are like just down to the wire. And they're just the Red Zone channel. If you don't know what that is, it's just a channel dedicated to all the NFL games that just they keep jumping back and forth to the ones that have action in them. And so for all the games yesterday to be coming down to the wire, and then you also have the race starting at the exact same time, it makes for a tricky Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, definitely, especially when it's 500 miles. Like, I knew it was going to be a long haul. We had a dinner planned for my girlfriend's birthday at 7. I knew I was going to miss the end of the race. Thankfully, though, I didn't because of the rain. Like, the rain came out at the perfect time where we got to go out and eat, and I got home to see Reddick take the lead. So, pretty good timing on that one. But let's,
It's our NASCAR weekend race grade.
Let's jump into the race grades, guys. That was the sounds of the classroom. Pencils down. It's time to check these papers. Matt, what'd you think about the race? I have a feeling I know, but I'm not exactly sure.
I gave that race a D, and the only reason I didn't give this race an F was because we actually had some decent racing in between the mayhem.
Yeah.
I finally hit a point yesterday where I stopped being entertained after the multiple drivers leading the race blew tires and ended their day. A lot of good cars that could have won the race ended their day. It was just, I had multiple people actually text me saying how embarrassing it was yesterday. Like I said, we had 4 or 5 guys that probably could have won the race that got knocked out because of tire issues. It just felt like the end of a super speedway race to me, where it was just drivers praying that their car would hold up.
For real.
It was just kind of survive to the end. You know, like we just said with Rick Allen coming out of the last turn on the last lap, nothing is guaranteed. Even though Tyler Reddick was all by himself, you didn't know if all 4 of those tires were going to hold up or not. I just thought it was just like a lesser product to me, and it kind of became a joke. And that's not the sport that I love watching. So I know sometimes I tend to get super serious in these race grades, but yesterday sucked. It was just an embarrassing day.
Yeah.
It even got to a point where Dale Jr. and the mayor were pondering, like, how the hell are we going to finish this race? Like, if guys don't want to take the lead because they're blowing their tires out of the lead all by themselves, They let Ricky Stenhouse lead a handful of laps because no one wanted to jump out front. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Ricky led 23 laps. He actually led 3 times for 23 laps. So
yeah, because no one wanted the lead at that point. You saw 2 or 3 guys drop out of the lead. You saw Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch earlier in the race. It was a disaster yesterday. And that's just like, if that happens in April, whatever.
Yeah.
But here we are in late September. We're in the second round of the playoffs, and we still don't have a playoff driver winning a race. And it's just been kind of a disaster, kind of embarrassing. And, we have Talladega coming up and then the Roval after that. And what the hell is going to come from those 2 races? So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, during the regular season, I was really enjoying all the different winners we were getting and all that stuff. And then as the playoffs started, like it was exciting. Like, oh yeah, Eric Jones won. He should have won a race earlier in the year anyways. Chris Buescher's been showing speed all year long with nice flashes. And so like, it was nice to see him get a win. And then I don't know, man, just as it keeps going, it almost, I don't know if it exposes the playoffs. I don't think it exposes the playoffs. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, but I don't know, man. It just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. That's for sure.
It exposes the cars. It exposes the crew chiefs trying to get maybe too much out of the cars with the way the tires are. It doesn't expose the playoffs because this is year 8 or 9 with the playoffs, and we've never had an issue like this before. And I'd hate to call it an issue because, non-playoff drivers winning isn't necessarily an issue, but it kind of,
it's an anomaly.
Lessens, it lessens the value of the playoffs a little bit, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's just the cream is supposed to rise to the top when it comes down to crunch time, and that just hasn't happened. And it's not like these guys don't have speed. It's just we see them getting wrecked out of these races. And, we might run into a situation where someone who, like, I don't know, a Chase Briscoe or a Daniel Suarez wins the championship because they're the ones who survived. It's just a matter of survival at this point. And is that really the true way to crown a champion? I don't think so, but
I know Eric would be happy about that Daniel Suarez because he has him as the dark horse going to the round of 4.
That wasn't supposed to be and I would be too. I love Daniel Suarez. That wasn't supposed to be a shot towards Briscoe or Suarez.
No, it's just like you expect one of the bigger names.
They're not the most deserving out of everyone who's left. So I don't know.
Well, yeah,
that's the whole thing. Like, and we've talked about it before with the playoffs, and I've always said this. It's like, back in 2020, Chase wasn't the most deserving to win that championship, but guess what he did? He survived the playoffs. He's doing what everyone else is doing this year, is he's surviving. That's what it is. You know what I mean? It's just like, and to your point, Matt, it's like, yeah, like you can't say that like, what, like the best car isn't going to win the championship. And like, we talked about it, forever about the playoffs is entertainment now. And am I entertained? I am thoroughly entertained. This is wild. Is it entertainment because of the racing? No, but it's entertainment, man. I mean, my text and people outside, it was buzzing for the wrong reasons, but it's buzzing, still buzzing. You know what I mean? Like,
so what's your race grade?
And NASCAR is making this is what they wanted, essentially. They're loving this. I feel like this is exactly what they fucking drew up in the beginning of the year. Was this exactly? They wanted this. They're getting publicity, and in today's world, bad publicity or good publicity, it's publicity. So you take it no matter which way you get it. And right now, it's, even though like the racing was good, like Matt even said, I gave the race a D as well. Because it turned into a clown show. I like races of attrition. I like races where, it shows these teams who could build a car that's going to last 500 miles. I enjoy that. I like that. And I think if you take the race we had yesterday, and if you take the tires blowing out, and the drivers had a lap or two warning to come down and be like, okay, this is the run. If there's a little bit of wear, I think that race would have been top 10 because we were seeing good racing. And if the cars and the tire allowed the drivers to have that fall off, you saw some people coming and going, okay, this run, I'm good on the short run. My tires are falling off. I got to come down pit road. Then you would have had strategy. Yeah. You would have had comers and goers. You would have had a lot more passing. But guess what? This tire doesn't allow that. It's so immediate. And there's no warning. There's no nothing. It's bam. It's done. You're in the wall. So I think the tire's blowing. It made for like excitement at first because, one or two drivers have it. But when you get up into 16, 17, 18 different drivers having that, normally those drivers, their tires would just wear and they would lose time off of their lap times. And okay, they're coming down. We know our window of what we need to do. Tires mean something on pit stops. Now 2 tires to 4 tires. That really don't mean shit anymore. So I think this race, it could have been good. Like Matt said, there were hints in there of good racing, good battles. I watched Eric Jones pass a ton of cars throughout the day. There were cars that could pass. It was hard, don't get me wrong, but there were cars that could pass. And, it just the tire failures really, I think, overshadowed a half-decent Texas race, which we all knew Texas and how it's been in the past, and people were shitting on it. And, we were kind of hoping for a good race. And I think 1 or 2 of those failures, that's common. You know what I mean? That adds to it. I think the whole year, the mechanical failures, they add to it. It adds that, that, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I was at the end of that race. There were worse races where at the end, I didn't stand up and I wasn't like, oh my God, what's going to happen because of a close pass or a close battle. But I will tell you what, in those last 20 laps of that race, I was standing up watching the TV because there was a possibility that the leader was going to blow his tire again. Eric Jones was driving through the field. He was the first car on 4 tires. And it's like, okay, he's making up ground. Like there was excitement in the race as far as the racing goes. But it just gets overshadowed by these stupid issues. And this isn't the first race that the racing's been overshadowed by a problem. And I think that makes the track look bad. And it looks bad on the sport when in all reality, if you really break the race down like we do every week here on the podcast, you'll find that the race probably wasn't as bad as what the media and what everyone just says because the headlines look bad. Yeah. And that's not good for NASCAR because, whether it's a tire issue, in recent, whether it's the wheels falling off, there was something, the toe links, and it's always seems to be something in these last 10, 15 races that takes away from the racing and makes NASCAR look like they put the car out a little too early. So I don't know. I gave it a D. I did like the racing. I almost gave it a C because there was good racing in between. And I tried looking at if those tires don't blow out and that's the tire wear and those teams were allowed to go down and they felt the vibration early, I think that would have been a really interesting strategy race at the end there. And the way that they were battling, with this car, they have to side draft really close. And, they tend to get into the left side of the car when you want to draft before that turn to go down and get
That's
low.
True.
And
don't tell that to Willie B.
Oh, I know, right?
And that's getting close. But I guess we'll get into it later on. But I'm a big Willie defender because of what I watched him go through all race long.
Yeah,
I do have to push back. Just sorry, Whitey, before you get into it.
That's all
Eric,
right.
You said something, and I can't just stand by as the resident Chase Elliott fan and let you get away with it. Winning three out of the last 5 races of the season isn't survival. That's called becoming a champion.
No, he didn't deserve that championship in 2020.
Wow.
I will stick to that. I'll stick to that till the day that I die.
He won 3 of the last 5 races.
But he was not the best driver that year at all. He was the best in the playoffs. I'll give that. Okay, I'll say that.
I'll give you that.
Whoever is in the playoffs right now, like right now, Chase is deserving. Deep down inside, I want Chase to blow it and not win to see how it feels for Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin to get fucking hosed back in 2020.
Well, guess what? Guess what? You're about to get your wish, buddy.
It's very possible
because of how that's why it's crazy, because the playoffs, those 10 races, it literally is survival. And who could make those 10 races? Are you going to be the best? Yeah, Chase was in those 10. He was the best there. But that whole season as a whole, you look back and say, who was the most deserving of a championship? He wasn't even second. True. So it's like,
is that the year? That was the year Harvick and Denny won like a bazillion races,
like
right?
Won like
almost 10 each.
Yeah, it was insanity. It was a travesty that Denny Hamlin or Kevin Harvick didn't. Well, because Kevin Harvick didn't even make it to the round of 4. He got knocked out in Martinsville
that year, didn't he?
Yeah. So and that's what I mean. Like the Larson year is kind of like a fluke year, to be honest with you, where we did have him win the most, win the regular, and like that doesn't necessarily happen in this playoff system. And that's why, like, the playoffs to me, that's why I say it's more entertainment. It's more, it's playoffs. Like any other sport, that happens all the time too. Like, the Giants and the Patriots, like the best team always doesn't win. And I've learned to accept that and like, okay, that's what the playoffs are. It's entertainment now. And like, like Chase Elliott, this year, by far the most deserving, he was the regular season champion and he should be crowned the champion. But like we've seen, there is I think it's better than a good chance. There's a very good chance that he doesn't. And I will say this, whoever does win this year, if it's someone like a Suarez or could you imagine Blaney winning it without winning a race? Like it's like that's going to come up and I'll be like, hey, Chase, he was the best all year, but guess what? In these 10 races,
playoffs.
Someone else was better in those 10. So that's why it's kind of like, once the regular season ends, I kind of end that in my head of who was the best racer. Then I change my mentality to playoffs, and now it's like, okay, give me whatever happens. I crown Chase as my champion this year over the 26 races. By far, you couldn't tell me otherwise as a fan of anybody else that he wasn't the best and most consistent driver out there, because he was. But these next 10, it's up in the air, man. It's whatever happens, kind of happens.
And right now he's only +4 to the good. He needs to either win at Talladega or the Roval or do
Roval's great for him though. The Roval that is so clutch for a guy like him. And Whitey, I know he's not in it, and I know you're counting on one of those too. And like for Reddick, that is such a key cutoff race for those two drivers. It's like you know Chase is I mean it's. The race that he had to come back, man, Briscoe, I got to give a shout out to him because the race he was having in that interview in that rain delay, he's like, man, I don't know. We threw everything at it. And nothing was happening. He goes, we might have had a 15 to 20 place car. He goes, I don't know. He goes, it's just whatever we did, it didn't do anything. And here he is top 5 at the end of the race. And, I bitched about that with Eric Jones for the longest time and Matt Kenseth. It was like they couldn't overcome having a shitty car in the beginning of a race or an incident. They would fold from that point forward. And in order to win championships and in order to win races, you can't do that. You have to overcome that, keep calm, make adjustments, and keep throwing shit at it. And, the teams and the drivers that could do that with their crew chief, they tend to go on and win championships. So, it was a weird race. It was exciting in certain aspects, disappointing in others. I think that's why I really gave it the D, because I was kind of just disappointed.
Yeah.
Overall, not just with the car and the wheels, NASCAR in general, with the calls, the officials, the booth, the scoring. They need to figure that shit out. Like, you're NASCAR. You mean to tell me you don't have a guy on every camera, an official looking at all this? Like, this is critical stuff that goes on in a race, and you want to be safety, and you don't see certain issues that go down on the racetrack. It was a weird race that I wish people, go back and take it for what it is and try to look at the in between the tire blowouts, because we did see a decent product, and that's where I kind of look at a silver lining. I think Matt talked about that a little earlier before we were recording. Like, we don't really want to tear this down completely and be Debbie Downers the last couple weeks here, but this car is doing a lot of good. I know it's been getting a bad rep as of late, but there's still a lot that it did this year that was phenomenal.
Yeah. Hey, just Statman Matt with the crazy little wild stat here. Chase Briscoe, just to speak kind of how impressive his top 5 finish was, he's the only driver in the top 18 finishing order who didn't lay down one fastest lap of the race. Oh. Everybody else in the top 18 laid down at least one fastest lap, and he didn't lay down one, and he still finished top 5.
That's a race of attrition right there. Right. That's just making it last.
Right.
Man, Eric, you threw a whole lot out there. I don't even I know where to start. There was a couple things I wanted to hit with the Kenseth thing and overcoming a shitty car to begin with. I have the same issues with Tyler Reddick, man. Listening to his radio, he's been getting frustrated really easily. At least he used to. And I feel like I saw a swap this week where, you know, they had all sorts of problems. He used to say like, oh, they need everything to go perfect to win a race. They had all sorts of problems, but guess what? When the field has all sorts of worse problems, you know, like it's your day to take kind of. But yeah, I was nervous right down to the end, where I couldn't even get excited, to get myself excited that my guy was about to win, because you legit, like Matt said, up until that last turn, you don't even know if a tire's going to go down. I kept watching Joey Logano a second and a half behind. I'm like, oh man, you know, he's right there waiting for the striking, you know, and
that would have been a race that Logano
would win. It would have been such a Logano win, like unreal. But with that being said, I got to give the race an A. No, I give it a D-, and I give it a D-, and I've started my race grade the same exact way for the last 3 weeks. The chaos with the tires is not entertaining anymore. I've had to end it. It's not entertaining. You know, it's okay for one race of attrition. You don't want to see 3 races of attrition for all the same reasons. And I mean, I don't know, like you guys said, there was a chance for a good race, which is insane because Texas, like you automatically think like, oh, Texas is going to be shitty. But in between all the chaos, we did see some interesting racing going on. And like Eric said, you know, maybe if it was a tire wear issue and you could pit and there was a fall off, like, yeah, then it would be exciting. But that's the problem. Goodyear doesn't bring tires that fall off anymore. They rarely do, because of the tire debacle that happened at the Brickyard 500, like what, in 2008? They're terrified of tires shredding like they did then. So they bring extra hard tires and now they're just blowing. So you're having, you know, journalists that cover the sport really comparing it to what happened in Indy almost over a decade ago, you know? And it is, like Matt said, it's just a black eye for the sport, for these kind of headlines and stuff like that.
I really think, not to cut you off, Whitey, but with the tire thing, I really think, I know they want this car to look like the manufacturer, like you could get it off the line, and they nailed that. They absolutely nailed that.
Oh, for sure.
But I think they really need to look at going back to a smaller wheel so that they can run an inner liner in these tires. I think an inner liner would at least save the car from really getting way out of control and completely shredding and just going down to the rim like it does with this wheel and tire combination. That inner liner, I think, saved a lot of these cars, and it would take the issue of like, oh, keep it rolling, you know what I mean, with the ride height when they get stuck, when the tires go flat. It's something that I like we always say, we do bitch, but you do need to throw out some solutions as well. So I think NASCAR is going to have a give and take here when it comes to the adjustments that they make with this car.
Yeah, it's hard though to like, supposedly there's no room for an inner liner. So then what do? Make the tire bigger, maybe make the rim an inch smaller and the brake pad
you just
smaller.
Gotta shrink that. Yeah, you gotta shrink the rim down, and okay, it might not look exactly like what you get on the dealership lot, but hell, you're saving a lot of money. You're saving the team's money, and you're saving races. You know, that race could have been a half decent race if those tires didn't completely blow and send the cars into the wall. Maybe if there was an inner liner, would have rode, it wouldn't have just kicked out, you know, and crashed immediately. So I don't know. I think there's things that they could do, but I thought they would have actively been trying to do this. And I don't know if they're not. We don't know. This is speculation, but it just seems like I heard a couple other callers on Sirius XM talk about practice. If they had a little bit more practice time and a little bit every week, would they have found this out earlier to correct this before the playoffs started and maybe had a revision in place and have a change? So I had to agree with that person who said, hey, all these practices being cut and nipped and time behind the wheel, that matters too, to shake down a car.
Or, and this is a wild stretch, the crew chiefs could just fill them with enough air pressure to get it done. Because like you said with practice, Tyler Reddick, great example, ran the most laps in practice on Saturday. They cut the tires open to see if the inner walls were damaged. They found out they were, and they ran less aggressive tire pressures to compensate for that. You know, like you're seeing guys blow tires left and right, but you know, you look at Christopher Bell, his crew chief kept throwing on underinflated tires and he kept blowing tires all day long, you know? So like, I get it. I saw that Ronnie Childress had a tweet talking about the reason why they're running lower tire pressures is to drop the spoiler and the diffuser down lower to an optimum level to get the most downforce out of the car. But at the same time,
free speed is what he was calling it.
Yeah. But at the same time, like that free speed comes at a cost. And when the cost is your tire blowing out and you're wrecking, is the juice worth the squeeze? You know,
right.
Because that free speed is there, you know, it's there. But if you wreck as the leader, like Kevin Harvick did, and, you know, you're already out of the playoffs because you wrecked last week too, or 2 weeks ago at Kansas, you know, like what are we doing here? You know, you know what creates the problem. It's you're creating the problem for yourself. And then you're complaining about it.
It's a perfect storm of a subpar. No, we can't put all the blame on Goodyear, even though that's the easy answer.
And
it's
that's why I'm bringing up this whole thing, because it's easy to blame Goodyear. Oh, they're bringing shitty tires, but the crew chiefs have a part. The track has a part with what's on the track, the tire dragging and all those compounds and stuff like that. It's a
perfect storm.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers.
Perfect storm, right?
Yeah. So
and like you said,
like what Matt said too. He texted into the group when I think Eric Jones, I said, like, you guys were going to do something. I'm like, I'll hold on to the race because Eric Jones was in P2 and I'm like, I'm into the race. I'm going to be watching.
Yeah.
And, you know, the next pit stop after that, he had a bad stop. He had a slow stop.
It was the slowest stop, but they took their time.
But right. And and I noticed that earlier in the season, we talked about it here. And I'm like, you know what? I would rather that. I would rather my pit crew be safe, take your time, lose some spots on pit road. He already drove through the field twice to begin with. So we know his car could pass. We know you could do this. So, hey, let's not have anything dumb happen to us. And let's just do it the right way, take our time. And you know what? You're seeing the cars and the crew chiefs that are taking the conservative route in their setups, making it and getting top 10s and top 5s because they're just setting it up by the fucking book.
Eric, it's why Eric Jones has the most green flag passes of anyone by 300 passes this year.
Really?
Eric Jones has 3,513 green flag passes. The second most is Eric Almirola at an even 3,200. So Eric Jones, I mean, they're losing spots on pit road, but you called it a bad pit stop. I wouldn't call that a bad pit stop.
I call
that a safe pit stop.
Right.
And
right.
There's nothing wrong with that because he's making passes. He's got the speed. So yesterday was a perfect example of that. What did he finish? 6th? So
yeah,
I mean, why not? Take your time, make sure everything's good, and why not?
Right. So I agree. It's not all Goodyear. They do have to own up to it. But you guys are 100% right. These crew chiefs are pushing the line. They're pushing the limit. And I will say this. I always admire the crew chiefs that do push the limit. I love that. I love when they go and they try to expand that gray area. But when that gray area gets exposed and you know what that gray area is going to do to your car and you keep doing it over and over again, week after week, I think it becomes a you problem rather than a Goodyear problem. So
for real.
I think some of these people really should look in the mirror.
With that being said, though, like we can't let Goodyear off the hook too much because that Goodyear rep, I don't know if you saw, we saw it because we sent the video to each other.
Yeah,
there was a video circulating last night after the race, a Goodyear rep, that poor bastard.
Here, I'll play it for you.
He was like a meat shield for Goodyear yesterday, just he was fielding questions and he didn't have the answers. And then he ended up kind of pointing blame at others. And it was kind of an ugly look. But what he was saying wasn't necessarily wrong either.
Matt, you summed it up perfectly. He sounded like a guy that just got caught cheating on his wife, and he was making excuses as quickly as possible. Let me bring it up for you real quick. I think it's right here.
And I love the fact that Denny called him out on it, and Harvick called him out on it, and like all these drivers, like they're fed up. And you know, I said it to Jay on the phone today. I go, dude, we were talking about the race, and I go, I will say this, like it's getting to a point where I could see some of these drivers. I go, we're going to Talladega next and the Roval. If these hits, these small hits, hurt just as big as these big ones are doing in this car, I wouldn't rule out some of these drivers saying, you know what, we're not getting in the car this week.
Yeah,
until you do something about this.
So this is Goodyear's Greg Stucker on the tire issue last night. This is thanks to Dustin Long on Twitter.
Seen a lot of right rear issues tonight, not dissimilar to what we saw early in the year.
He looks super nervous too.
Yeah, he did.
We're gaining as much information as we can from the teams, trying to understand where they are with regard to their settings, air pressures, cambers, suspension, so on and so forth.
Right, so there he's blaming the crew
For sure,
chief.
I can say without a doubt, air pressure is playing into it. We know where a lot of the guys are, some more aggressive than others. We know that plays a part. I'm not saying that's the only thing, but it's certainly a factor. And so we're just trying to understand everything else that might be going on, with regard to specific teams. We know that a lot of guys have not had issues. We've had guys put, full fuel runs on tires, but obviously other guys have had issues. And so we'll, be working with them to try to sort through exactly what that is.
And that's the thing. There's a lot of guys out there on Sunday that didn't have issues.
Greg, you're seeing essentially about every 35 laps or so, it seems to be seeing an issue come up for somebody. So
yeah, and some. I mean, we ran the first 40 laps of the race, without a problem, until we had a caution, and that was not tire related. So it's. I'm not going to say that. I think it's kind of in that ballpark, But again, I think it's dependent. I think we've got a different race right now than we had when we start, right? With conditions and the red flag,
Also, the track cooling
you're
and
home a
stuff.
lot sooner than I thought
all
you
those
would
factors
be.
come into play. The resin, I think, has kept the racetrack extremely fast. There's very little tire fall off. When the bottom's not working, the gas can move up.
That's
so
bad.
all those factors
Very little tire fall off is
play
bad.
into it. No excuses. We're just just trying to find the facts and figure out what exactly is going on.
I mean, he does make a lot of good points
it's
there.
their fault, not mine.
Pretty much, yeah.
So one thing I do want to bring up to like kind of to his point, I guess. Yes, certain teams are going above and beyond the recommended pressures and the setups and all of that, but Brad Keselowski was interviewed too. Yeah. And he acknowledged that. And he's like, listen, he goes, we understood what we were doing. We took all of that out of our setups.
Yeah.
We took all what we were doing our setup. We took that all out and ran it like we were supposed to. And they still had issues. But
to that point, I feel like the Chris Buescher accident, he just got loose coming out of 4 on that bump and everything. Like he didn't have a tire go down that sent him into the wall. At least
no, but it was the inner tires that were causing bubbles on some of the tires they showed when they were coming out. And Steve Letarte was the one where he kind of went a little bit more, he went Steve Letarte on it.
Yeah.
And it's like he's like, oh, see that bubble right there? That's an indication that the inner tire, something failed on the inside. Like you were saying with Reddick, Whitey, the tire probably got hot. The inner one failed, caused a bubble, and then that bubble fucking blows out. So it's like, if the inner tires are still failing, then like they have to do something about the heat. And I know, Matt, maybe you brought it up, maybe the that new shielding that they put in there, maybe there is not enough air going over the tires and through there to cool them down and the brake cycles and all of that. So man, NASCAR, they have a lot to engineer and look at here with this.
Oh yeah. My question with that, Eric, was, and thank you for bringing that up. I forgot about that. My whole thought process was, if you're paying attention, a few weeks ago, Kevin Harvick caught on fire. His car caught on fire because of the rubber from the pebbles of the wheels were coming up through, catching on fire on the exhaust, and then sending a fire up into the cockpit. So NASCAR's answer to that was they let the teams put a reinforced plate in there to block the rubber from getting up into the next to the rocker panel and catching on fire by the exhaust. So I'm thinking maybe, possibly, I don't know, I'm not a mechanic, maybe by putting that piece of sheet metal in there, it's stopping some of the airflow to get to the tire and cool it off, where maybe that's causing a little bit of an issue too. I don't know. Again, I could be sounding like an ass. If you're a mechanic, if you know these things a lot better than I do and you're listening and you can debunk that, please do in the YouTube comments. But I don't know. Maybe that has a little bit of something to do with it. Something else we didn't talk about nearly as much is that bump coming out of turn 4, I believe, turn 3 or turn 4. Yeah. That was a huge issue where we saw a lot of guys washing up the racetrack and having to come out of the throttle. I mean, it's what happened to Denny when he got into Slick Willie 2 clocks, is he had to come completely out of the throttle. He washed up the racetrack. We saw it probably 5 or 6 times. And for someone, God bless her, my wife was watching the race with me. She goes, why didn't they address that issue? Why didn't the track address that issue before they started racing there this weekend? Like, there's a big bump there. Why don't you address that? Why don't you get that fixed?
Well, it's the character of the track. That's the part of it.
The character of the track that's ruining the race.
I mean, there's a lot of bumpy tracks out there. We're going to one in Las Vegas in a couple weeks. It's insanely bumpy. That's just the nature of the beast. That's how the track.
It's like Dover coming apart a couple years ago. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. All I know is the NASCAR R&D Center is going to be super busy. And to those points on the bubbles on the tires, you can get those on your street car too if you rub curbs a lot and stuff.
Yeah.
I was on my way to work. It was probably like,
Whitey story. I love it.
No, it was probably like 6 months ago. I was on my way to work and there was a Mercedes SUV in front of me. And it had the biggest bubbles on the side of the tire. Like there was like 6 of them. And they were like the size of like golf balls. I was like, man, this lady's she's gonna blow a tire in the next like week, with
around here with the amount of potholes we have in northeastern PA, that lady wasn't making it another block down the road.
Yeah, and all I'm thinking is like, how do I tell this lady like, hey, you got to get these checked out? Because like I'm like, can't like ride up on them, like start honking the horn and stuff. It's like, how do you warn someone? Like, I want to be a good Samaritan, but like, it's gonna come off like I'm a fucking weirdo, So
yeah, she goes to park and puts some money into the parking meter. Get a little too close to that curb, lady. Your 2 tires are going down.
Oh yeah, but yeah, definitely the NASCAR R&D Center gonna have their work cut out for them, not only this week but in the whole entire off season, and hopefully they could get these problems squared away.
3 wide for the lead. 1 lap to go.
It's this week's Checkers and Wreckers.
All right, boys, you heard the sounder. It's time for the Checkers and Wreckers. We start, Matt, with the race grade. So let's start with Eric, Daytona Ron, for the Checkers and Wreckers for the weekend.
All right, my Checkers. This one was kind of easy for me. Watching the race yesterday, and we just got done talking about all of the issues that went on. And there were some cars that didn't have issues and took advantage of, the others having their failures. And I got to give my Checkers to Penske. They were a team yesterday that they just ran a perfect race almost.
Yeah.
Logano and Blaney, finishing in the top 5, respectively at 2 and 4. And also, I have to throw in Harrison Burton had a hell of a day.
Yeah,
he was up there in the front. He was running really well up front, almost for the majority of the race. He even caught on fire. The tire man couldn't get in there because his fire was too big to change the wheel. He pulled up. They took the fire out, went to the back of the field, came back again, and ended up running into the top 10 again after that. So I have to give credit to Harrison Burton, who's had a really, really tough year, but showed some glimpses in certain races. I think his first halves have been better than his second half of his races. But back to Blaney, he hasn't won a race, but I don't know if there's been a more consistent driver this year than that 12 car and Ryan Blaney. He just consistently finishes well. He might not be up there all day long, but he keeps his car clean. And the same thing with Joey Logano. He's kind of a sleeper this year. Even Dale Jr. was kind of like throwing a little bit of shade at him. And he's like, he hasn't had the cars and the passing ability like he has in the past, but he's there. He's always there at the end. He's still doing what he needs to do, but he's not doing anything flashy. So I just have to give it to Penske. With all the turmoil, all the stuff, it seems like they don't have that. So they might be one of those teams that are going by the book and saying, hey, we're going to run maybe slower in qualifying. We might not, have a good stages 1 and 2 and win stages. But guess what? We'll let you guys have your issues and we'll take advantage of that and collect all the points that we can. And you look at those two right now in this round of 12, sitting right at the top of the leaderboard when it comes to points to advance. So they know what they're doing. They have a plan, I feel like, which is just get through these races and finish. And man, it seems to be working out well for that Penske team. So I just have to give it up to all 3 of those Penske drivers this past week. They survived. They survived Texas.
Yeah, to your point, got to give it up. Harrison Burton led once for 15 laps, and he was on fire. He still finished in the top 20, finished 18th, which is really good for Harrison. Again, we were talking about this morning. We forget he's only 21 years old. He's not even 22 years old yet. Like, he is still very young, especially for the Cup Series. And then Austin Cindric, he lost a tire, but he still finished 15th. Ryan Blaney, he led.
Oh, Cindric came back after that?
Yeah, he finished 15th. Ryan Blaney led twice for 29 laps, and Joey Logano led 6 times for 15 laps, and he was right there at the end to finish second. So yeah, good day for Team Penske all around.
And just to kind of defend what Eric just said about Logano being someone who lasts in these races, he is second with total laps ran this year. Just only behind Michael McDowell, another Ford who just knows how to take care of his vehicle. And it just seems like, in the case of Joey Logano,
shout out to Michael McDowell too.
Isn't out on that racetrack. Joey Logano is finishing races.
McDowell finished 11th, led twice for 15 or 12 laps. Good for McDowell.
Well, you have a good point there, Whitey, because my Wreckers is Michael McDowell. Fuck Michael McDowell and that 34 car. You know what? Because that motherfucker had me so mad yesterday watching that fucking race. It was unbelievable. Yeah. I gave credit where credit is due all season long. Love Michael McDowell. Greatest season that he's ever had this year. Hats off to you, buddy. But guess what? There's certain races when it's just not your day and you get the fuck out of the way. When your car is missing a gear and you're stuck in a gear or whatever the fuck was wrong with your car, Michael McDowell, you fucked Eric Jones's day over. He had a legit shot at the end of that fucking race to get up there and contend for the win on the first car and 4 fresh tires. And he was making fucking laps at the end.
He was
passing guys left and right. But you know who held him up all fucking day long? Every fucking goddamn restart? Michael McDowell. Put Eric Jones into the fucking wall on a shitty block and held up 6 cars. Next thing you know, everyone's fucking behind Michael McDowell. Eric Jones is in the wall. It's like, McDowell, what are you fucking doing? Get out of the way, you fucking dickbag. You ruined the race for a lot of fucking drivers yesterday. I cannot stand Michael McDowell after Sunday's race. He fucking ruined a top 5 or maybe even a top fucking 2, and we could have watched Eric Jones try to run down Tyler Reddick, and it ruined my fucking race for me. I was so pumped to see him up there up front. When Tyler Reddick was fucking leading, I'm like, you know what? Here we go. Our 2 fucking guys, we could battle it out at the end, have some content for the show. You know what I mean? No, but Michael fucking
we got
McDowell,
plenty of content for the show today.
Oh, my God.
Wow. I didn't think I was going to strike a nerve like I did. I love it.
The podcast broke out into a Quentin Tarantino movie. Eric, congratulations on breaking the show record on F-bombs in one single breath.
Woo, love it.
Dude.
I'm here for it, but I like
That's
it.
the Buffalo Trace coming in. I'm almost done with my mason jar of whiskey, so
I was just gonna say the bourbon just hit.
Eric, it's only been an hour. Come on, bud. We got a long haul here. Love it though. I'm here for it. All right, Matt. How about you? What's your checkers and wreckers for the weekend?
I don't know if I even want to go after.
Yeah, I can't top that. Can't top that.
My checkers in the highlight reel that Whitey put together, we were laughing at it a little bit, but it was Dale Jr. was amazing yesterday in the booth.
Yeah.
He's always amazing, but yesterday in particular, it seemed like he took his game to a whole different level.
He was on fire.
He was calling out wrecks and spins seconds before the camera even picked it up. There were times where it was like actually jarring, where Junior would be like, trouble! And it's like,
you have to wait for the camera. You're like, Junior, stop with the camera. I'm like, get to it.
And every time he did it, you would pray that it wasn't your driver. And then of course it was my driver.
Yeah.
And you could just tell that he was watching the race out of the window instead of just on the monitors in front of him. And he really gets into it and he truly cares. And that just makes for a really cool element to the broadcast. And I just thoroughly enjoy Junior's excitement every time something like that happens.
Honestly, that was the inspiration for making that highlight reel. I wanted to get just every time Junior called out like, oh, trouble in turn 4, and like they caught up to him. Unfortunately, I'd used the NBC highlights that they post on YouTube, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna cut every single trouble together and get them all in. But yeah, I agree. Dale Jr. has been on fire during the playoffs. Much like Chase Elliott.
I love him in the booth. I absolutely love him in the booth. I just think
whoa. What was that comment?
I don't even want to repeat it.
Okay.
Did you say replace him with Jamie Mack?
No. I said Dale.
He made a Chase Elliott joke.
I'll repeat it. I said Dale Jr.'s been on fire these playoffs, like Chase Elliott was yesterday.
Oh, I will say that was a badass picture, though.
That was cool as he's jumping out of the car and the car is on fire. That was cool.
Just taking his gloves off, looks back at the car like, well, I guess it was, I pulled the shitty straw.
That's the thing that draws me to Chase so much, just on a side note, is just like, he's so calm, cool, and collected. I'm sitting there cursing at my TV 1,000 miles away, and he's just like, yeah, I guess I'm just going to have to win Talladega or the Roval now. Like, it is what it is. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, man, like you have ice pumping through your veins. Like, so that's what really drives me to him. But my wreckers, we mentioned this man earlier in the show, goes to fan of the show and my father, Mark Reilly.
Oh, what happened?
At 4:53 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, he texted me saying, Hendrick car's looking good. Almost immediately after that, Slick Willie 2 Clocks ran up the track, losing the lead after he wrecked. Bowman crashed out of the race. Larson had pit road troubles, and Chase blew up, knocking himself out of the race.
Oh, no.
Just jinxed on all levels.
Fuss me about having the jinx. It must be a Reilly family thing because I always jinx you guys. Yeah. My dad jinxed the entire Hendrick organization yesterday. Thanks, Dad. I guess we'll have to pray that they all win at Talladega this week because that's an easy feat, I guess.
Yeah, that's, well, you know, it happens. It happens. I feel like the review of the podcast this week was going to be good right up until that point.
I was just going to say that. Whitey, but I didn't. I'm like, the review's going to be shit now.
Yeah.
No. Oh no, Eric, you ruined that with your F-bomb laden rant. He's not going to like that one too much.
All right. All right. My checkers. I jumped the gun a week ago, and I gave Noah Gragson my checkers for being on fire, and yet again won another one, swept all of September. So I have to give him the honorable mention. I originally gave it to William Byron for not giving a fuck and turning Denny, even though it was under caution. I do think that is kind of a shitty move, and you kind of leave yourself out for a penalty there, which NASCAR says they might still give him a penalty over that one. But as I was going through, just going through this podcast right now, I have to do it. I have to give it to the 8 team. Tyler Reddick, Randall Burnett, the pit crew, everybody that puts hands on that car, because last week was a rough week. You know, they announced Kyle Busch taking over the 8 car next year. Reddick's losing his car at least a year earlier than they had planned because, you know, supposedly he was still going to race it next year. Who knows what's going on with 2311? They get knocked out of the playoffs. You kind of feel like, all right, now's the time to give up. We're done. And they never gave up yesterday, whether it's, Derek on the spotter stand, keeping the encouragement up when they went a lap down, saying like, don't worry, they only won a lap down. You just gotta get through to the next caution. The pit crew had some pit crew mistakes, but they made up for it later on in the race. Randall with some great calls. And of course, you have to thank the cautions and all the other attrition to let him get up through the fields. But, they started out strong. They finished strong. They won the race, and I was very excited. I'm very happy as a Tyler Reddick fan, and even in the post race, some press conferences and everything, he kept it very cordial. He talked about how excited he is for his team to continue to build on with another great driver, Kyle Busch. He said, "If it wasn't me, I'm glad they got Kyle Busch," which is in his opinion the best you could go out and get. So I got to give it to the 8 crew all around. And my wreckers, I said the entire day, the tire, the track, the resin, the only good thing was when it ended with Tyler Reddick burning out. But there was some good in between. It was enjoyable. So my wreckers goes to all of those things for bringing down the possibility of an actually good race at Texas for once. Just unfortunate circumstances that we've spent probably an hour and 15 minutes and probably 20 minutes too long complaining about all the issues yesterday. And there was a lot of positive that happened, and we did get to see our guys running well, at least for the time being with Chase and the time being with Eric Jones, before Michael McDowell fucked it all up for you. But no, it just sucks that it could have been a really great race and it wasn't. But that's all I have for the race. Do you guys have anything else to add that Eric, maybe we missed?
Hey, Eric, his sponsor is Loves, not Hates. How do you apologize to Michael McDowell?
I've been to one Loves in my entire life, and it was in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. It was the worst experience of my life. So fuck Mike McDowell Loves.
Going to Bristol.
I tell you,
that was an experience.
And you were with me, Matt, so you know it. Fuck Loves, dude. That was one of the worst fucking truck stops I've ever been to.
I tell you what, there's a Loves that I stopped on 80 on the way to the Bloomsburg Fair last year. And it was a weird experience, not gonna lie. It was a weird experience. I don't remember
familiar with it.
I don't remember what happened, but I remember like leaving and getting in the car like, man, that was fucking weird. I am a Sheets.
Basically, it's like we're all like, let's get out of here as quick as we can.
Yeah.
Like, get back in my truck and let's get out of here.
I'm like a Sheets, Wawa, Pilot, Flying J type of gas station guy myself. But that's all I have for the race. I never made a sounder for this one. It's that time. Everyone loves to talk about the winner on a Monday, one Tyler Reddick. Here on the Bumper Run podcast, though, we like to talk about the last place driver. And it was Kyle Busch with yet another DNF. This time he wrecked coming out of turn 4 and ended his day.
Is Kyle Busch a nominee for the Get It Together award?
He might be.
100%. 100%. I saw... Now, Matt, you might have him on hand, but I think I did see a stat where in the last 10 races or 15 races, he has an average finish of 24th.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. He hasn't. Yeah, I think the last
it's like I'm like 20. Oh my god! Like it's just been absolutely terrible.
Yeah, the last 5 or 6 races, he hasn't even cracked the top 25 in finishing.
DNFs. It's those DNFs are just killing.
And the thing is, it's all equipment problems and stuff, engines, stuff like that. But I'm wondering at this point, right? Tyler Reddick has the second most wins on the season at 3. Chase Elliott's the only person to win more than two races until yesterday with 4.
You can almost, and I'll even say this as a Chase Elliott fan, you could almost count it as tied for the lead because don't forget,
and Pocono was given away to him.
Was because it was given to Chase.
It was. Denny Hamlin was disqualified, so it was kind of given away.
Denny and Kyle were both disqualified. Chase finished 3rd that day.
And you want to know what? They would have all been tied for 3 wins on the season right now. Right. But if you're Richard Childress, I mean, we can make this a pick lane if you want. If you're Richard Childress, are you kind of regretting not signing Tyler Reddick to a long-term deal at this point?
Yes, I think we've said that this whole time. Yes.
But
that's why he did that 100%.
But like now it's cemented in. It's cemented in, right?
Yeah, not kind of regretting it, like really regretting it.
you talk about Reddick and his interview, how he's a nice guy and he's saying, I want to do this and that. Deep down, just like you have that inner voice saying, ha, fuck you.
Yeah,
he's saying,
exactly.
He's like, aha, see what you could have had? He wants to win and win out. He wants to win every week and then do that just to say at the end,
fuck you.
You lost out on me.
Yeah, you fucked up.
Anyway, this is a reason for him to try even harder to win now.
You fucked up.
That's right.
I don't know.
He knows it. He knows it.
All right. I just want to get.
Honey, the baby isn't going to be able to listen to this episode when he's older.
Yeah, I might have to put an explicit tag on this one for the old iTunes this week. But speaking of pickle lanes, the pickle lane choose cone is out. I only have one pickle lane this week, and it's simple. What should we do at Texas? So this week I've heard everything from turn it into a short track to reconfigure it to tear it down and start all over. I heard rumors like after this run, like something's going to happen with Texas. Like it's not going to be the same. So what would you guys like to see happen with Texas? I feel like we did this a couple weeks ago, but I don't remember. Did we do this already this season?
I think we did it with Auto Club.
Okay, we probably did. All right, that makes more sense.
But I'll take this. I would like to see them leave Texas alone.
Yeah.
Take away the resin, take away the PJ1, and run it at night.
Yeah.
And just see what the track has
Cooler
by
temperatures.
itself. Cooler temperatures, because you saw in that last run, the reason there was no tires and Reddick was able to make that last run on that set of tires, and he had the oldest one, the track cooled down by 30 degrees, the ambient temperature cooled down.
Yeah.
So guess what? Those tires, they didn't get as hot and they didn't blow. So if you have the race at night and the cooler temperatures, that's if this, I'm talking the same car we have now, if we were to race there next week, I would say leave it alone. I wish they didn't do any of the resin or tire dragging this year with this new car, because now all of the statistics and all of your notebooks are tainted, because it's like, what could the car really have done? You don't know, because now it's like, oh, if the resin was down or it wasn't down, oh, we put it down, but it wore out by the time the race was here because Xfinity and trucks. And, you know, like there's too many variables to really understand if a car works well at a certain racetrack or not. So I would really like them to just like, I don't know, I'm not a fan of putting this. That seems like a Band-Aid fix for last gen's car. The last gen car, the packages weren't working. Okay, let's try something so at least we get good racing for the year. Put some sticky stuff down, try to make multiple grooves. This year, you're having a new car. I felt like they should have just ran every track organically and like the track was designed, and see what the car did on the racetrack.
Get all that data you can.
Exactly.
You know?
And then now from that data, now you're like, okay, I think maybe we could try resin here, and here, this groove, that groove. And now maybe that will elevate it because we have this, and this. Oh, these tires did well here. What was the ambient temperature? We're here. All of that stuff is so skewed now because of, oh, we use PJ1 here. We use resin over here. We use this here. And it's like, from what I saw yesterday in between the chaos, I think we would have seen another really good race at Texas Motor Speedway.
And to that point, Kyle Busch wrecked out because he went up into the resin before it activated. And he even said, like, it's 100 degrees. You'd think it'd be activated by now. And as soon as you touch it, it's like driving on ice, you know? So, like, really, how much good are you doing?
The next lap, it didn't. You know, it's like certain spots were coming in before others, and you had that confidence to go up there. Oh, man, it's stuck. I think the resin's coming in. Next lap, you put the tires in that same spot. Guess what? You're in the wall, and now you're in the garage.
How about you, Matt? What do you think?
Well, Eric, I could not agree more with you. Don't do anything with the track. And as a matter of fact, I actually have a long-term solution to it. Don't do anything at all with the track. Let it lay dormant there for the rest of time.
Just leave.
Don't tear it down. Let it sit there and decay so that those fans in Texas have to drive past that track every
Just
day.
An eyesore.
Wishing that they went to the races when it was still operating, because that crowd yesterday was bullshit.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear it about it being too hot. I don't want to hear about it being threat of rain. We've all three of us have been at multiple races at multiple different venues where there's been the threat of rain. We sat at Pocono where it was 100 degrees. So I don't want to hear about the weather or anything like that. Get your asses to the seats. You don't deserve. The racetrack sucks. It does not put on good racing. and you guys don't fill the seats. So let it lay there. I agree. Don't touch it at all. Just don't touch it ever again, and just let it sit there forever and let it decay.
So I have a happy medium to try to bring back the fans to Texas. Create a true
oval. Race to Pocono?
Create a true oval. So we don't have a true oval anymore, except I guess Homestead kind of counts. All of the ovals we have are D-shaped ovals. You know, you look at the intermediates, you have a Charlotte D-shaped oval. Atlanta used to be a D-shaped oval. Now it's a hybrid thing. Go back and make Texas old Atlanta from like the 80s, where it's just before they added the D part, where it's just a true oval.
Without a tri-oval.
Without a tri-oval. I think that would make a unique oval 1.5-mile track to go to. And I want to see it. I want to see that happen.
I also think I don't know what was the All-Star race crowd like, because I would like to see that versus this race, because guess what you have? You have college football. Texas is a huge college football state. Cowboys. Once football season is in swing in certain states, it's tough. It's going to be tough to get the younger crowd there. It's going to be tough. You have a college football stadium filled with 110,000 people. And if some of those people are NASCAR fans, and guess what? They're going to pick that college football game over NASCAR.
Yeah.
And that's just facts. And, I do think a little bit of the scheduling with Texas here being in the middle of college football season and the NFL might have a little impact on certain amount of fans showing up at that race.
People only have so much disposable income. So, yeah, you're right. Texas being such a huge football state, that actually makes a lot of sense, Eric.
So here's what we do.
You go to so many events in one weekend.
Get it out of the playoffs. Move it to the spring. Put it in May while it's still warm
Maybe
in
it's
Texas.
A little cooler.
So you get cooler temperatures, and then maybe you don't have to run it at night. You could run it in the late evening, like they did. Run a 4:00 race as the sun is starting to go down.
Run it before you do the West Coast swing. Really change up the schedule.
Yeah. Let's take some
Instead
chances.
Instead of going Daytona, Atlanta like they used to, Daytona, Atlanta, West Coast swing, do Daytona, Texas, West Coast swing, come back to Atlanta.
Yeah. But that's the only pick lane I have for this week. So let's move on to
Marty. You've got to come back with me.
Where?
The next NASCAR Cup race. It's the weekend preview.
And we're heading to Dega, baby. Talladega. Hopefully we don't get some rain. There's a tropical storm hurricane brewing down there. But hopefully we see trucks on track this Saturday, 12:30 on FS1 for the Talladega 250. Saturday, Xfinity also on track at 4 p.m. for the Sparks 300, and I'm pretty sure it's 3 o'clock local time. So hopefully they have enough daylight to get it done this time. I know last year this race got shortened because of so many wrecks in the Xfinity series. They ran out of daylight. And then Sunday Cup on track 2 p.m. for the Yellowwood 500 on NBC. I'm excited. I'm also excited because I won the picks this week, and that means it's time for our gambling preview.
Money talk. Here comes the money. It's the Bump and Run gambling preview.
So let's make some money. Matt, give us the stats we need, but first to review. I picked Ryan Blaney to win. He got me 43 points. Yeah, I was top scorer. Eric, you picked Ross Chastain to win last week. He got you 39 points. And Matt, you picked Christopher Bell, and he got you 3 points. Of course, he had issues with tires all day long. So Matt picks first, Eric picks second, and I pick last for Talladega. Matt, give us those numbers.
So like I always do, I will give you the top 10 and favorites to win this race in Talladega. Although it is always usually a crapshoot, there are odds and favorites attached to the race. So I will. These odds are always presented by DraftKings. These lines are presented by DraftKings, rather. So we've got a three-way tie for 10th place. Bubba Wallace, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Busch all coming in at plus 1,800. And by the way, this is also the race that, like, if you just want to kind of spread your money around, you're going to get some higher odds because of the possibility of wrecks happening and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You want to make some money. These are usually the races to do it if you like spreading your money around. Then we've got Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain tied at plus 1,500. Oh, and along with Tyler Reddick at plus 1,500 as well. All of these guys that I just mentioned can easily win this race. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and William Byron all tied for your favorite to win this race at plus 1,200. That is not a lie. You have got a 6-way tie. I'll say that again. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and William Byron, all the favorite right now, according to DraftKings, at plus 1,200 to win this race.
I wonder if there's some mathematical way to put money on everybody and still win a profit no matter what, no matter who wins.
I'm sure there is. You put $2 down on all those people.
Yeah, put like $1 on these guys, $1.50 on these to hedge those, and then I'm gonna start doing some math this week.
This is a race for some underdogs. You know what I mean? Like the underdogs, like someone earlier in the season, I think hit big on one of these tickets where they had like the top 3 finishers, and they won almost a damn near $1 million on it.
Oh yeah, it was just a Daytona a couple weeks ago. They had it was like JJ Yaley, Cody Ware, and someone else for a top
Landon
10
Castle,
parlay.
maybe?
It was Landon Castle for a parlay for top 10s. Which I try to do parlays all the time and they never let me do it. So I don't know what kind of stipulations there are. I think you have to be pretty deep in the field to get a parlay for top 10 guys. I don't know. I don't know what the restrictions are with FanDuel and DraftKings like that, but I always have issues. But Matt, who are you picking?
Well, I had just about 5 or 6 weeks ago, I was in the lead. Now I'm 100 points behind Eric, and I am way down in 3rd place. So I have just as good a shot as winning this race if I just close my eyes and randomly pick. And as a matter of fact, that is exactly what I'm going to do. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel here. Who am I going to land on? Right there.
I think you're in the Truck Series.
Oh, it was the Truck Series. But you know what?
It's slid over.
I landed on Ty Gibbs. Is he racing in the 23 this week? Is he in the 23?
He is. I think
all right,
he is.
Ty Gibbs. I picked Ty Gibbs.
All right. We'll see what he can do for you. I like it too.
God, I like it.
It's not a bad pick.
I'm taking Ty.
It's not a bad pick at all. How about you, Eric? Who are you picking this week?
Well, this is my gut. I go with a little intuition here. I talked about, this team earlier, and how I gave him my checkers. Team Penske. And there was someone left a little bit of one of these at the house, a little 22. But guess what? Your boy ran out of toilet paper, and this is prime toilet paper using material right here. I'm not going with the 22. I'm going with the ex-Penske driver, and I am going with someone who finished really well, top 10 in every stage, top 10 to finish the race, I think, last week, and he got interviewed, and he said, you know what? Someone asked him, what's your next best chance to win a race? He goes, from this point forward, every week. Yeah. I'm going with the number 6 of Brad Keselowski. They found something over there at RFK Racing.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski definitely found something because he led once for 31 laps, ended up finishing in 8th place this week. RFK has been on a tear the last couple weeks, and I think that is a really good pick because Brad Keselowski is fantastic at Talladega. Loves sneaking those last lap passes for the win. I was also thinking in the Ford camp because I think the Fords are going to work together really well. And I picked them to win last week, and I'm going to ride that money. I have 2 more picks with Blaney to go because we're limiting everyone at 5. I picked him for the 3rd time last week. I'm picking him for the 4th time this week. I'm really thinking that maybe Ryan Blaney finally gets that win for the season and locks himself into the next round at Talladega. He's done it before, and I think he could do it again at Talladega.
I will double down. Ty Gibbs is plus 5,000 to win this race.
Oh, I'm putting money on Ty Gibbs.
So $10 will net $10 if Ty Gibbs win this race will net me $510.
Let's go.
I'm locking that in. I'm locking that in.
All right, to review the playoff picture right now, Alex Bowman is in 12th, minus 30. Christopher Bell, minus 29 in 11th. Austin Cindric, minus 11th in, man, I forgot how to count. 10th. And Chase Briscoe, minus 4 in 9th. Chase Elliott sitting on the cut line, tied with Daniel Suarez at plus 4, Denny Hamlin in 6th at plus 8, and Ryan Blaney sitting in 5th at plus 15. Will it be Brad Keselowski making what, the 5th non-playoff driver to win in the playoffs? Will it be Ty Gibbs running part-time as a fill-in to get his first Cup Series win? Or will Ryan Blaney finally get his first win of the season, even though he's been up front in the lead in the points for how long now? Or will it be someone else? We will find out. That is the crapshoot. That is Talladega. We will see it 2 p.m. on NBC for the Yellowwood 500, and we will break it on down for you Monday night right here on the Bump and Run podcast. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night.
The Bump and Run.
There it is.